are in for a treat today. My guest is a man that's been in many movies. He is a nationally known stand-up comedian, and you're watching the screen right now, and you're going, "I know that guy. Who is that?" And I would say, "That's Matt Four." And you go, "No, the other guy." That is Brad Stine, and he has been in so many movies. I'll tell you just a few. I wrote a few of them down. Marriage Retreat. You've seen him in Christmas with a capital C, Acquitted by Faith, Witness Protection, Persecuted. He's got two, I believe, two for 2023. One, which Sean Hannity just did a promo for, and there's much more to say. Brad, thank you so much for being here. I am excited to hear what you have to say.
Well, I've done a lot of comedy around the world. I've been in all 50 states, numerous movies. My career has been quite long and eclectic, but I got to say, I don't know how it can get any better than this moment with you. I don't know if there's anywhere else to go but downhill. So thank you for completing my life, my career, and basically just a nice exclamation point to everything I've ever done.
Right.
Culminates right here today with you. So yes,
Yes,
it is a privilege. Yeah, it's
This
an
is it.
honor beyond anything I can even imagine. I don't even know if I can speak. I can barely breathe.
You know, I don't know how many times people have said that to me. No, wait, I think I do. I think I do. No, it's one.
Mm.
That's how many. That's how many times.
Well, one is the loneliest number.
One, yes, and it feels very lonely right now. Thank goodness you're here.
Amen.
Yeah, you know, so we're going to get into a little bit about the darkness that you've been through, but before we do that, tell us a little bit about being in the acting business. What is give us a little bit of background, like where were you and how did you break in?
Oh, acting. Well, I was always interested in acting. My dad did community theater, so I kind of grew up going to theater, watching that, and had relatives that were in television and film in the 60s, obviously much older than me. I was just a little kid, but and
Yeah,
so I was always something that was interesting to me, and did high school plays and whatnot, but just really enjoyed it, and felt sort of good at it, I guess.
yeah,
And so I did take acting class in Hollywood. I lived in California for many years, so I was up in Hollywood and did take acting class with some well-respected acting teachers, and just did like everybody else. Went out on auditions and tried to see if I could get in the game. My first film I ever got booked for was called Poodle Springs. It was an HBO film. I was only on screen for probably 5 seconds, but that first scene was with James Caan. That was my acting scene partner at that time, so it was pretty cool. But anyways, it got me my SAG card, and then, but for the most part, I started going, I really feel like I want to make sure I tell stories that I believe in and can get behind. So that really led me to kind of lean more towards faith-based films or family-friendly films. And I've been able to be in a bunch of those since probably around the early 2000s.
yeah, yeah. So what happens when you get a script and you look at it and you feel that it's questionable? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you do with that? Or do you just absolutely flat turn down a script that you feel like just doesn't line up with your values? Or
Well, I don't really have an agent right now, so it's not like I get a lot of submissions. Clearly, if what happened to me, actually, I had an experience that kind of helped me a little bit. When I first was starting, you really want to just get in front of the camera because that's hard to
right?
do, and you want to get the experience. So you take whatever you can get. So anyways, I ended up doing a student film. I was in California, so USC and UCLA both have major student film programs, and so I was to do one, and in this film, it was just small, tiny little part. I actually played a heckler in a comedy club, ironically, since I'm a comic. But
Yeah,
he had a curse word in it, so I didn't really care, because to me, I'm playing a character. This is what he says. This is what he talks about. And so as I got closer to shooting it, I started thinking to myself, you know, whenever you film something nowadays, it will be seen for eternity. It will never disappear. It will be there forever, as we've seen with cameras and people having phones and whatnot. I mean, you will go down in infamy or whatever because there's nowhere to hide. So I started thinking to myself, you know, one of the things you tried to prove as a comic was that you could be just as sort of relevant, sophisticated, edgy, interesting, artistic as anyone else, and not have to use a curse word, not have to in any way demean your Christian belief system or your conservative belief system or whatever. And you've kind of proven, I want to show you that I don't have to compromise my integrity and yet still compete at the highest levels. I was in comedy clubs throughout this country where, you know, cursing is the norm for comedy. And that was 30 years ago. So, I mean, it's even by far worse now. So I started thinking to myself, well, you know, maybe in some ways the fans that you've created would feel betrayed. You know, wait, I thought you were this guy or that guy. So I went to the director and I said, how about what if he was to say it like this instead of like that? And I was trying to use an actor's approach by saying, I thought this through. I wonder if he would do this. And he said, hey, that's a good idea. You know, let's shoot both scenes, see what we end up with. I don't know that I've ever even seen it. A student film, it's not like it ends up anywhere. But I did I had committed to it. So I did do the take with the curse word, but I was grateful because it taught me something. It's like, okay, you're going to have to navigate this forever. If you're going to be an actor, this is going to happen. You're going to have to deal with material that's going to come your way that you have to decide if you're going to do it or not. And so how do you do that? How do you make that choice? And what I did learn is this, for me, what it told me was this: I'm not as concerned about what my character does or says as to what does the story say. Do I believe in the big story? Do I think that the story is redemptive? Do I believe the story resonates with my worldview? Do I believe it's uplifting and it has value and it's good and it's important contextually? That's what's more important than just what my character is, because certainly if you're going to play any kind of a drama or anything, there's going to be evil. That's part of what the stories are. I mean, the truth of the matter is, if I said to you, I got a great faith-based film about two sisters that have sex with their dad, you'd be going, what are you talking? You're ridiculous. I said, well,
Yeah, that would never be in the Bible.
yeah. Yeah. And I also have a wonderful one where this guy is spying on a woman while she bathes, and then he has sex with her and kills her husband. It's a wonderful faith-based film. You'd be going, how dare you even speak like that in my presence? It's like, well, then don't read the Bible, because it's filled with crazy truth. So it's all about context. These are stories God wanted told. So there must be something to this that we need to observe. So what I came to the conclusion was if I believe in the story on the whole, then that would be more of a directive as to what I would choose to do, even if it maybe had something that is not me. I mean, and mainly it would be curse word, because I would draw a line. I wouldn't do nude scenes. I wouldn't do sex scenes. So that would be a place that I would just say, I'm not going to do that. But, you know, that's not unprecedented. There are a couple Christians, well, probably more than that, but the well-known Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ and so on, is a staunch, committed Catholic. And in his contract, he won't do sex scenes because he's married and he believes it's immoral. And also Denzel Washington is a Christian, and he won't do that either. But if you've ever seen, because he's a Christian, but if you've ever seen Denzel Washington's films, they're very violent, and he'll curse, he'll say anything, because to him, he's playing this evil character who, by the way, usually gets his comeuppance. That's the other thing about it is, does the evil prove itself to fail, to be destroyed. And so again, but not some Christians like Kirk Cameron wouldn't even kiss his co-star in a film, but instead put his wife in because he felt that that was immoral. So you're going to have to kind of draw your
Right.
own conclusions, and that they're going to be different. Different people, different Christians might come up with different decisions as to what they will or won't do. And I don't know how to gauge that. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of between them and God.
Yeah.
Other than like pornography or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, that being
Well,
said, that's where I can have.
It's unlikely you're going to get the part of a 1940s gangster who talks like a Sunday school teacher.
Right.
So you are stepping into the part, but you got to draw a line in the sand as to what you will and want to do. I want to tell you this, and
different. It could be different between two different believers.
Yeah, I think that whether it's acting or being a stand-up comedian, a singer, we can look at the same situation and apply the principle to our life, no matter what we do.
Doing say again?
Like you have to look at the situation and say, I've got to decide whether, if there's something clearly in the Bible, you say absolutely not, but you've got to look at every situation and say, and pray and say, God, do you want me to do this or not? And he's able to guide people through a gray area.
Well, and there are a lot of gray areas.
There's a lot of gray areas.
Bible, I mean, it's kind of like that old saying, in the essentials, unity, in the non-essentials, liberty, and in all things, love. So the thing that is true about the Bible that's really interesting is Jesus said, "I didn't come to cancel the law, but to complete it." So he doesn't say that they're the traditions and that there aren't godly expectations of what it would mean to be a believer. But the Bible is replete with this concept. It's just so odd. For example, the meat sacrificed to idols. He says, hey, we don't want to do this because it was sacrificed to an idol. And he says, who cares? The idol's not real. It's a God that is not the God that we believe in. Eat it. It doesn't matter. Oh, but if it causes someone to stumble, then don't eat it. Now, here's what's interesting. People say, see, and it's like, yeah, you do understand, though, that what it's saying is the weaker Christian is the one that stumbles. You do understand it's saying you're the milk drinker. You do understand it's saying you're the unsophisticated. You're the weaker. You're the immature. Yeah, you're right. We have to sacrifice for your inability to get deep and to be truly a larger witness of Christ by being more mature. So that's all true, but don't start giving yourself some pat on the back like you're more deeper committed, because you're actually leaning on what is normally called legalism. You are somebody who's more concerned about rules than the liberties. And again, that can be abused. I'm not saying that. The Bible says all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. There's always some parameters that you have to evaluate for sure.
Yeah.
But the Bible seems to be very clear that unless it's an essential, like Jesus isn't God, you're not in. Jesus didn't rise from dead, you're not in. Jesus
the virgin birth, bodily,
you're not in. There's 5 or 6 things that are they're non-negotiable.
Exactly.
If you don't believe this, you're not a believer and you're going to hell. That's
it. Like there are multiple ways to heaven. No, there's not. Listen, I want to tell you this. I think I mentioned this to you when we were on the phone, but I was in my car driving. It's been several months ago, and I heard you giving a testimony about a time when you really felt like your acting career was over. And what you're doing is something that many people esteem as being the highest, most honorable career, because celebrity, comes with fame and fortune a lot of times, and that's what you wanted to do. And though the men watching this now, that may not be their dream, but they have a dream that seems as impossible to them. They've given up hope. They feel like I can't do it. And as I was listening to your story, there was a time when you felt like your hopes and dreams were not going to play out. And I'd like to kind of get into your brain a little bit about how you got there, what your mindset was, and the way in which you got from what seemed like hopelessness back in the game. I mean, how did that play out? But I think that's what we can connect with the best.
Mm. Well, what happened was, like, it's kind of an addendum to the story we were talking about earlier, with the student film. When I was in California, I wanted to make it into the film. I wanted to do that. I was a comic. I thought, well, maybe I'll get my own sitcom. This is what everybody dreamed about as
Yeah.
comics back in those days.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do that, but I'm a Christian, so I'm limited in some of the things I can say or do, but that's self-limitation based on what I believe God would want from me. But I ended up, through circumstances, meeting people that were encouraging me to come to Nashville, Tennessee. And I knew that that's where a lot of the Christian record labels were. And at that time, you needed a record label if you're going to make an album. You don't now. You can do it yourself, but you did then. And the Christian agents and managers and everything were there. This is prior to the internet really blown up yet, and there was no social media. So all this was all just starting to happen. So prior to that, everything was old school. You had to have an agent, you had to have a record label, you had to have a studio behind you, or you're not going to go anywhere. So I knew that for me to make it in show business, at least in the acting, but you got to be in Hollywood or New York. I mean, you got to be where they are doing all the work. And I felt like I was being called to leave California, go to Tennessee. It's like basically what was happening. It's a longer story than we have time for. I was being called to ministry. I was being called to God, basically saying, you're mine. Salvation, the committing yourself to Christ, means more than bow your head, close your eyes, and say a prayer. I just want you to know that you're asked to be dead to me. You're asked to be crucified with me. You're asked to be a slave to me. You are not your own. You do exactly what I ask. That's what it means to be a Christ follower. That's what it means. And so, is that what you are? Yeah. Okay. You're moving. All right. That's fine. I'll go where you want me to go, and I'll do the world you want me to do, and I'll focus on the Christian aspect of it and into the churches and things that were completely the antithesis of what I was doing. I was in nightclubs, comedy clubs. My first film, like I said, was an HBO movie. You know, I mean, I was moving into more Christian-based stuff, which I felt like in some ways was a downgrade, because it's certainly not going to be as well known. You're not going to make the same kind of money. You're not going to have the same kind of fame, whatever I thought I wanted.
Yeah. Smaller audience.
Yeah, it's all a subculture, less sophisticated people and all this and that. I mean, I just felt like it was kind of a sacrifice, that God was basically destroying my dreams and saying, "No, you follow me? Oh, well, that means you do what I say, and it probably means you're not going to get anything you ever wanted all along." So I was in my car with my family, moving from, I spent the night at Palm Springs because we were going to drive to Tennessee, and I was taking the 10, if you know that area, all the way down, and then you cut over into Phoenix, Arizona. So I'd done this a million times in my life, to Palm Springs, because I lived in California 30 years, and even to Phoenix. And there's these windmills that are in Palm Springs that people see. And I was driving that morning, taking my family, and I'm thinking to myself, I've been on this 10 interstate a million times in my life, being here in California, and looking at the windmills, and I've seen these so many times coming down in this area and performing. But this time, I'm not coming back. I'm keeping going. I'm passing them. I'm going there. and I'm keep going. And I'm going to a people I do not know. I'm going to a place I do not have any connection to. And I just kind of had this moment. You know, my family's with me. I made this decision. So they're stuck with whatever happens. They're stuck with it. It was kind of like a lump in my throat and big swallow. And I remember thinking to myself, I guess my dream dies today. Because I ain't going to make it in movies. I'm leaving. This is where you do movies. I'm leaving. I'm not going to make it in this business. I guess I lost. I've never been a quitter, but I guess I lost. I guess you gave up. You moved on. All right, God. And then I kind of took a breath and I said, okay. All right, we're turning a page. What do you got for me? What's my next adventure in my life, God? I told you I'd go. Here we go. Well, within, I don't know how many years now, it's been about 21 years in Nashville, but I've been in probably 20 films since then, written 2 books, had 6 comedy albums, used to be a live commentator on Fox and Friends, the #1 morning show in the country, which is secular, as a Christian comic. Worked for Promise Keepers in front of 10 to 15,000 men every week for 18 weeks for like 5 or 6 years. Had an 8-page profile written about me in the New Yorker magazine that called me God's comic. That's where I got that name. Have been in major network television and ABC NBC Nightline or ABC, whichever it was, twice. So, I mean, in other words, not only did I not lose my dream, but in fact, it was fulfilled in spades, but not the way I thought. It was done in the terms that God had decided for me. And in the end, it's the only way you're going to be satisfied. I don't care what your dream is. If it's not God's and you're a follower of Christ, you can't be satisfied because you're not in balance. You're not where you belong. So it was just a wonderful example that God isn't going to steal your dreams. You know, the Bible says that God, how does it frame it in Proverbs? God gives you the desires of your heart.
Oh, yeah.
And
Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will
He'll
give you the desires of your heart.
desires of your heart. Now, I always thought that meant whatever I desire, God will give me. I don't think it means that.
No.
I think it means if you desire God, what you desire will be God-breathed.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he will give you the desires of your heart.
Yeah.
So you are desiring what you should be doing all along. So that's even better because you're doing something healthy and in congruency with what God had called you to do. But it also means you're going to be in good shape, because if you just serve your own desires, you end up destroying marriages and a drug addict. I mean, we don't know what's best for us.
That's right. Yeah,
And
delight
so,
yourself in the Lord, and he'll give you the desires of your heart. It sounds like go to church, get a boat.
yeah, right.
But that's not it. So you had a surrender moment.
Yeah.
You're like, God, whatever you want me to do. And I think that many people, when they come to that, do feel like, well, if I submit myself to what God calls me to do, I'll end up in a hut in Africa eating bugs. But I mean, what parallel do you draw from your experience that men watching this right now, not going into acting, but wanting to have their own business, wanting to be married, wanting to start a horse farm, whatever. How does that parallel for them?
Well, I think if we take that proverb seriously, delight yourself in the Lord and he'll give you the desires of your heart. But there's another proverb that I think is more important. I think it's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, he'll direct your path. I think that literally is a template for how to navigate your life. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. So the first thing you have to do is God first. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. So the first thing you have to do is, am I all in? Have I given my entire life to God? Yes or no? If it's no, then go be a Buddhist. Go be an atheist. Go be a hedonist. Go be a nihilist. Do whatever you want. God gives you permission. You're going to hell and you're going to be miserable, but he gives you the permission. Or actually be the Christian you claim to be. Give your whole heart. Trust him with all your heart. And then he says this, and lean not into your own understanding. Notice what he didn't say. He said, don't listen to yourself. Don't grapple with things. He didn't say not to use our intellect. He gave us our intellect. We are spiritual and biological creatures. They're both sacred. They're intertwined. So remember, Israel means wrestle with God. Christianity and Judaism are the only religions in history that said wrestle with God. Come to him and say, I don't understand this. And you're allowed to come bring doubts and fears and anger. He's like, come on.
He can handle it.
Yeah. Well, not only handle it, it's the only way you're going to grow and be a man.
Right. Yeah.
To be able to, men wrestle. And so he says, so he said, lean not in your own understanding. Use it, but you don't make that what drives you. You don't lean on your understanding. You use it, but you go back to, am I trusting God with all my heart? So that he can make sure that my understanding is proper and isn't off course. In all your ways, acknowledge him. Third step. Where am I not acknowledging him? Well, God, I'll do whatever you want, but I ain't going to give up my... Okay, you're not acknowledging him, so it's going to go south. Where are you not acknowledging? Well, I'm not acknowledging him I'm still living with this woman instead of marrying her. Oh, so you haven't really given yourself completely to his moral standards. You're not acknowledging him in changing those aspects. You're an alcoholic and you won't stop. So you're not really giving all of yourself and acknowledging him in all your ways and seeing the flawed ways and saying, I have to sacrifice and crucify those two. So you have to trust him with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him. If you've done those three things, and then he will direct your path.
Yeah.
That's how you'll find out true north. That's how you get where you belong. That's his template for saying, if you've done these things, when you desire something and find something in your life, as long as God's first, you find something in your life you can't not do. I have to do this mechanical business. I have to. That's your call.
Yeah.
That's God's putting his desire in your heart. Because, you talk about what I do is maybe some more honorable or at least what people think is a cooler profession. It's like, I guess so. But unfortunate that performers or athletes are given this extra status because we're not more important than anybody else. It just happens to be that our profession puts us in the public eye, so it gives us accolades. But think about the terms that are used. American Idol. Idol is forbidden by God. So we give credit to people's simply because they are more famous. And what does that have to do with value? What does that have to do with honor? What does that have to do with being a good person?
Yeah.
You know how many miserable, horrible people are rich?
Yeah. And I bet you know a lot of them. Being in that profession, you probably know people that are in the limelight who seem like they've got it all together, but they're just in total darkness.
Well, you'd have
probably
to be.
More than anybody.
You'd have to be. You'd have to be. Because you have no option. If you're a billionaire, more than likely you worship your money. Because if you were, if you were the richest man in the world, why do you keep working? What are you trying to accomplish? You won. You're the richest guy.
Right.
What you can't spend all the money you made. Why are you still making money?
Right. Why are you still doing it? Right.
Trying to find meaning. They're still trying to find purpose. And what ends up happening with those guys often, not always, but often, is they think that they're so rich that they are going to now fix the world. It becomes a religious quest.
Yeah.
Now they think these are oligarchs. These are the people that are just, by the way, destroying the world. These multi-billionaires who get together and decide how the world's going to be run now, because we're billionaires, so thus we get to make the rules about humans. How more evil and demonic does it get than that?
That's exactly right. I mean, when I get on that, I start preaching. So I won't do that. But man, that is so, so, so true. I want to say to the men, I can't believe our time's almost up. I want to say to the men that are watching this that what Brad has said here is something that you can go back and watch again. He's saying, look, this and this and this. And it doesn't matter what darkness you're in. It doesn't matter how lost you feel. It doesn't matter how hopeless you think things are. You're standing upright, you're breathing. God will take you from where you are and he'll take you on the path that he wants you to be on. And you're not always going to keep all your friends. You might lose some friends. I bet, Brad, I bet you've had some pushback from woke Hollywood and people that don't agree with your conservative approach and biblical approach. How do you handle that?
It goes with the territory.
Yeah,
There is nothing to discuss. Okay.
yeah,
Christians and conservatives are hated, they're censored, and they're trying to make it illegal to be one. Now, this is the age-old truth. Life is very, very simple. You work in a world that it deals with two things, truth or lies. That's it.
yeah,
It manifests in philosophies. It manifests in political parties. It manifests in religious or philosophical or ideological doctrines, but it's just truth and lies. There's
yeah.
nothing new under the sun. Everything that's happening on this earth, and it's very possible that God is literally ending the world. I mean, we are now in a position where a one world government not only is feasible, we watched it happen during Corona.
Yes,
We're
we did.
watching us happen. We now are getting to a place where they have digital currency. That means you will be controlled. You vote one way or the other, or you will not have any money. We're taking it. You can't get into that store because you're not good enough. You haven't done the right thing. You haven't bowed to Baal. Folks, men, this is as big as it gets. You have to decide once and for all if Jesus is actually God, not you believe he's God. Is he? Then
Yeah,
act like it.
yeah,
Then act like it.
right.
Bring your Bible to church, not your phone, so people can see I identify as a Christian. Let your kids
Yeah,
know, let your kids know, your wife know that I'm completely imperfect, but I'm going to try to be a leader. I'm going to try to love on you and try to at least let you know what I believe. I'm going to pray. I'm
yeah,
going to pray over you.
yeah,
That
yeah,
I'm going to seek the best I can. I'm going to allow God, because in the end, hey, we're just passing through. We get eternal perfection with God forever. We don't deserve that. It doesn't make any sense, but that's what we get. In the meantime, on this earth is the only time in your life, and you're going to live forever. It's the only time in your life that you can give something to God he doesn't have, and that's your obedience.
that's
He
right.
doesn't have your obedience. You have to give it to him. He
He won't
doesn't.
take that from you. You know what? One of the lies of Satan is that weak men are are people who put their trust in God because they're weak, so they've got to lean on God. The opposite is true. You have to be a man. You have to stand up strong in order to proclaim your faith, go against the people that come against you, the friends you lose, the Facebook posts that where you get a lot of hate. You have to be strong in order to stand up against that and go the right way, no matter what anybody says. Hey, look, we're out of time. Um, I know this has blessed so many people. Thank you for this, and I could just go on and on with you. But I believe you go to churches. Is that right? Do you do events? Do you do live events?
I do them all year long. I got more than, I know what to do with. So yeah, go to bradstine.com if you want to bring
Okay.
me in to do a comedy event. I also do fundraisers for Christian schools or pro-life groups or whomever, conservative groups. I perform comedy, but I also am really about coming to the church and inspiring you to be all in about your faith, being unapologetic about being a Christian, and to be a bold truth teller in the marketplace. I do that through comedy, but also through God's calling on me to be a prophetic voice to the church in this season in America. That's what I do. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And I'll do it until I'm gone and move on. And then you're on your own.
Right. Exactly right. Well, this has been great. So all we do is just go to bradstine.com and everything we need is right there.
That's it.
Okay.
You can also subscribe to the Militia of the Mind if you want to, if you believe in what I stand for and you want to help defend freedom and religious liberties. I'm building a peasants' revolt of people who want to stand up for the truths and values of our faith and our country. And so, anyways, go to bradstine.com. It's all right there.
Okay. So, but that organization, can you give us the name of it again? We could get that on
my Militia of the Mind. It's simply a $3 a month subscription, so I can do my podcast. Brad Stine Has Issues. It allows me to do my live events for maybe sometimes for people that don't have the finances to do it. So it allows me to help churches that don't have as much money as somebody else. It just helps me do my ministry, which is to be a bold truth teller under the unique way God has had me do it, which is in the entertainment business.
Okay. And that's Militia of the Mind, and that we'll find that on Brad Stine.
It's all on
Brad Stine as well. Okay. We'll get it on the screen. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it so much. This has been awesome. I know it's gonna be a blessing to many, many people.
Well, have a Merry Christmas. Thanks.
And same to you. Thank you.